Everyone has doubts. Everyone has hang-ups in the faith. And there's two ways to deal with the doubts. Okay, everyone, welcome back to episode 123 of the What's the Dill podcast, the place where we answer the most viral questions about Catholic life. I'm your host, Pete Dill. I appreciate you stopping in, watching, listening, however you are consuming this. I appreciate you. We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about Prudence. We're going to talk about handling doubt, Catholic men, a lot of classics, a lot of the good stuff you guys want. If you guys want a question or a topic to be talked about or just have a conversation with, email me, DM me, reach out to me, text me, whatever. I'd love to talk with you, have a conversation about our Catholic life. Let's jump right into the first question. I've been serving my vocation for over a year. I just attended a retreat in my home city, and I was sure that the priesthood was calling me before, and now I'm positive it's where God wants me to go. However, I feel like no one is taking my desires seriously. Any suggestions on what I should do next? I think there's two things to talk about here. One is prudence with our decisions, and the other is discernment, proper discernment. You need to have prudence and proper discernment. But this comes up a lot for us. Catholics, we discern vocations, we discern marriage, priesthood, celibate life, whatever it is, and it can be tough to get a call. Now, this young guy put this phrasing, God is calling you to the priesthood. I'm sure it's where he wants to be. Well, what's interesting about this is that you have to go to seminary. God's going to call you to 6 to 8 years at minimum of seminary. And that's also a discernment process. So you're not discerning the priesthood when you're going to join seminary. You're discerning to join the seminary to enter further discernment. I think that's really important because I think a lot of young guys we want to know what we're going to do. So we're like, all right, I want to be married. I want to be a priest. And God takes us in smaller steps because he wants us to shape our hearts during that discernment process and not just give us the answer. So for this young guy, he says, God's calling to priesthood, and that could be the case. But firstly, God is calling you to the seminary. He's calling you to enter deeper discernment. He's not done working on you. He's not done working on your heart. And he wants to continue to change your heart while you're discerning a religious life. And I think that's really important because I think it can also break down some of the pressure to make big choices at 18, 19, 20 years old. I remember when I was that age and having similar thoughts. Oh, should I join should I become a priest? Should I be married? I don't know what I feel. I feel like I just want to be a college kid. And, and I thought about the seminary. I discerned that. And someone once said to me, hey, do you feel like God is calling you to the seminary next year? Is that in your prayer? Hey, Pete, make this one step to join the seminary. And I was like, no, not really. I'm kind of discerning the future state, 20 years down the line. Do I want to be a priest? Do I want to live by myself? Is that something I can do? Do I want to do? I had to make a choice, which was the next step. And that was, do I want to join seminary next year? So God calls us to make our big discernment choices in steps, and he paces us. And we don't have to figure it all out right now. So to this young guy, it's hey, if you really think you're called to be a priest, join the seminary. Go to the seminary next year. That would be year one of that, 8 if you're basically 8. 6 if you already have a philosophy or theology degree undergrad, and then, a few more years after. But that would be year one of 8 to discern. And you will discern heavily when you're in seminary. So don't put the pressure that you have to make this decision right now. And, people not taking you seriously, that's okay. You can reach out to someone who, a close friend or spiritual director who could help you, but, help you make that decisions in that process. But God's not calling you to be a priest right now. The first step would be to continue discernment and to join the seminary. So I feel like that's a really practical step, and that can be having practical steps in our discernment and practical thinking is where God wants to bring us, because we don't want to get too caught up in deep future stage or deep theology when we have to practically live right now. Which brings us to prudence. Prudence exists in all of our discernment process, but exists in all of our choices in life. And I love prudence. I try to exercise the virtue of prudence every day. And prudence is such like prudence is kind of like the baller, practical, smart. Of all the virtues, prudence is that dude where you're just like, oh man, like that guy's got it together. That guy's always kind of making the right choices. I want to be like that guy. This guy is smart. Prudence is that virtue. Because prudence, a great definition of it, this catechism describes prudence as right reason in action. Now, if you notice, it doesn't say anything about spiritual undertakings or, following the spiritual. It's right reason in action. Remember, faith and reason are always going to work together. So prudence is a virtue of taking action and using our mind and practical wisdom to make choices. So, sometimes, like you say, well, maybe God wants me to be really holy and join the seminary, become a priest. I was like, well, do you want to become a priest? And the answer might be, well, not really. I really want to be married, I think. But, maybe God wants me to do this to be holy. It's like, well, actually, practical wisdom might tell us that God's not calling you to something that you deeply don't want to do. In fact, another person told me growing up in, discernment is like, people who become priests and brothers and religious life, they want to do that. They're not forcing themselves to do that just out of pure obedience. So when you see a priest, you might say, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Okay, well, I don't know every inch of your life, but yeah, maybe you can. Maybe God's not calling you that. And that part of you that says like, hey, I don't think I'm called to that, I don't want to do that, is actually right reason. People who do want to be priests and people who become priests want to be priests. So practical wisdom always comes up and should come up in our decision makings. Prudence is the first of the cardinal virtues, and it guides all other virtues by setting rules and measures. It allows us to discern the true good in every circumstance and choose the right means to achieve it. And ultimately, it connects us to God through our actions. I'm reading some of this, so that wasn't just off the top of the head. Thomas Aquinas highlights prudence as not just acting correctly, but also includes foreseeing consequences and taking responsibility for our choices. So prudence is going to allow us to act confidently and decisively with the decisions in our lives. And it's a virtue. Remember, it's a habit. Virtues are habitual acts of doing good. So it's something we put into practice. So when it comes to discerning something big in our lives, like should I become a priest, should I join the seminary, look to the practical wisdom that you're receiving in your heart in prayer and from other people. If you talk to a vocations director and he says, oh yeah, actually, I think, you'd be great and we'd love to have you at our seminary next year. And, here's the details that help that happen. Well, that's a practical step to get you there. God's going to take those measures. He's not asking you to make a lifelong decision right now, today. That's it. No, there's going to be practical steps. So in all of our choices, we have to exercise prudence. Remember, it's a virtue, and it's that practical wisdom, right reason in action. It requires us to take action. Prudence is going to force us to take action in our lives and not just live up in the clouds, live up in theology, live in our heads, where a lot of times Catholics we can live. We just want to live in our heads and kind of play out spiritual scenarios when God's really, really always calling us to take action. And prudence is going to be the fuel in the engine to help us take action. And I think in my own life of when I use prudence to help make a big decision, I think about moving out of Texas. When producer Tanya and I were talking about where we should start our married life, we had the East Coast, we had New Jersey, we had Texas, what should we do? We allowed just the practicalities of our life to help us make decisions. And we feel like God spoke through practical reasons to us to help make good decisions. One of which was like, if my job and I'm working in New York and that's a lot, if we move to New Jersey, it's a ton of commuting and back and forth and it's expensive, but we don't want to live in New York. So what does that mean? It seems like a lot, but this is where my job is. It would be a leap of faith to go to Texas, but there's opportunities and friends and family, and we just were able to use practical reasons of like, hey, actually, I don't want to be going into New York, living in New Jersey, commuting every day, 5 days a week. It's expensive. It's time consuming. Do we want our first year of marriage spent with me commuting 3+ hours a day for work? And we're like, no, we don't. So we use that kind of little nugget of practical wisdom in our life to help us make a decision to inevitably, eventually move to Texas. So Prudence was guiding us, and I think that Prudence should help guide all of our decisions. And let's remember, like, God is in Prudence. It's not just purely practical, pragmatic reasons. God's in Prudence. It's a virtue, but he's going to be there when we're prudent to help us make decisions. So great question. Thank you for writing this. Thank you for this kind of very thought-provoking question. Let me know what you guys think. Any stories about Prudence where you feel like Prudence helped you make a decision, or you should have been more prudent in a decision. Okay, next question. Do you think modern men are particularly disinterested in the church? If so, why? And what do you propose we could do about it? Okay, so firstly, I feel like this is such a this is a hot topic. How do we get guys to be faithful Catholics and be involved and leaders in our church? How do we raise up leaders in the church? You look around at the young adult events, there's a lot of girls there. Where are the strong Catholic guys? Very, very niche topic, but very popular within our Catholic circles. So I think about two things. Let's get one thing out of the way. Yes, the church needs to do more to lift up male leaders and to show the Catholic life lived out and to support young men and fathers in not just theology, but also in helping take a role in the church, having a strong role that men can grab onto to help build up the church. Men want to be involved. They want to help make decisions. We'd like to make decisions. We don't want to just, we want to be involved. We want to help out. We want to be there. So we have to have a lot of opportunities. Yes, we need to have opportunities. The church needs to continue to build up male leaders. But it's also, we can't just blame the church. We can't just blame parishes for not doing enough for men. It needs to start in the heart. And that's the thing, is that I think sometimes we look for, we see the gaps, or we see maybe the problems in our church. We say, there's not enough guys here. Okay, the church needs to do more. Well, actually, we need to make sure that men are having conversion of heart and that they're convicted to following Jesus with their lives. And that needs to be the first step. We can't just say, hey, let's just create a bunch of programs to draw guys in and kind of that'll be enough. It's that's good. That's really good. But what we need is guys giving their hearts to Christ and then supporting each other in and out of the church, building a culture and then doing this. So yes, the church needs to let men build cultures in parish life and in the church, manly cultures. But you need men supporting other men on this race. So it starts with conversion of heart. And then I think, goes to men supporting each other and building a culture together. So I think a way that churches and parishes can support this men's culture is to have the opportunities, allow guys to get involved, allow guys to, take ownership of programs, activities. Don't put a lot of red tape in front of it. Try things out. Don't be scared to try it out. Don't be scared that things are going to, we have to change a million things, or this group is going to be happy with that group. Just let guys try it out, try, fail, try, succeed in building a men's culture in a parish and in a diocese and in, our church. And so again, starts here in the heart, and then I think goes to supporting each other as men, building a culture, and then bringing that to parish life, diocesan life. Okay, last question. A good question. Talk about doubt. The Catholic faith is starting to seem absurd to me. When I watch videos about the faith, it feels like they're trying to manipulate me into believing this wild story. I look around Mass and I wonder how everyone in the sanctuary is believing these same concepts. The fact that God is wanting to have a relationship with everyone, including myself, is hard to believe. I would like to believe, but I can't get over the overwhelming feeling of fear of being manipulated. Is this normal to have doubt in my faith like this? First and foremost, let's get it out of the way. Doubt is normal. Everyone has doubts. Everyone has hang-ups in the faith. And there's two ways to deal with the doubts. One is to run away from the faith and say, all right, well, I'm not going to stay involved. I need to get some space here and just figure it out because I'm having so many doubts. And the other is to dive even deeper and to get that doubt out in the light, talk about it, dive deeper, study, talk to people, let it in the light. So everyone has doubts, and there's two ways to deal with doubts in our faith. You either run away from the faith, or you dive into deeper, and you bring that doubt to the surface. You bring that doubt into the light. Every single person has doubts. You read writings of saints and stuff, like people sometimes have doubts about, God's love for us or God's existence. It's totally normal, and there's a lot of ups and downs in our faith of how we feel about it. Sometimes it all makes perfect sense, but sometimes we are just struck with doubt about, the truthfulness of it, the validity of it. How do we know this? How did this happen? How? Totally normal. If we beat ourselves up about having doubt, that's where we lose. Having doubt is normal, but we lose when we beat ourselves up, feeling stupid, feeling unholy, feeling unworthy, feeling doubt, when we let doubt exist in us. But God can always use doubt for his good. When we go through doubt, God doesn't abandon us. We might think that God abandons us and is angry at us when we doubt, but he never does. In fact, sometimes God is there to let a little doubt sneak in, to show us that he loves us, to show us the truth. And then we say, oh, whoa, I was doubting, and then I saw the truth that someone told me about. Someone answered my question. Because God is not vindictive. God is not Tony Soprano. God is not putting us through loyalty tests. You know what I mean? Tony Soprano, the mafia, constant loyalty test. Everything is a loyalty test. How loyal are you to the mob boss? And everything you do is about loyalty to the mob boss. And if you mess up once, it's over. That's not God. God is not putting us through loyalty tests. God is bringing us on a journey, and he's there every single step of it to pick us up when we fall. He's drawing us closer, and he's drawing weakness out of us too. He sometimes lets our weakness get exposed to us, to ourselves, to draw it out of us. And why is that? Well, why does God let doubt, or why does God let weakness happen to us? Why does he let these things happen to us? Well, what's the opposite? Because when we win, when we are successful, when we do well, we don't often credit God as much as we should. We don't say, hey, this is all because of God. God gave me the thoughts, the talents, the desire. God, this is all credit to God. No, we say, yeah, I did that. I earned that. I did that. So it's really hard to trust and give your whole heart to God and believe that God is leading you when you think you're the one doing everything. So God sometimes uses our weakness and our doubts to show himself to us, to say, hey, let me bring you through this, to show you that I am here every single step of the way with you. Weakness, strong, successes, failures. So the number one thing, doubt exists in all of us, but don't hold it in. Don't just let it sit in you. Doubt can sit and fester from the inside and just poison your mind, poison your soul. And I promise you, if you let doubt just fester inside you without talking about it, it inevitably will lead you to run away from the church and say that everyone's lying to you. Like, there's no sort of moment where you're just going to say, oh, it all makes sense. Sorry, I was wrong about that. No. The doubt is going to poison you if you let it sit for too long. So, to the person who wrote this, totally normal to have doubt, totally normal to feel this way. Talk to someone about it. Talk to someone you trust about it. Talk to someone, talk to a prefect, talk to a spiritual director. Talk about it. Let all your problems out there. Your problems with all your hang-ups. I really like what this person put, am I being manipulated? It feels like I'm being manipulated. Well, that's really interesting because it's that's a feeling that's coming from a feeling of being manipulated. I know that feeling. I can resonate with that of they're just trying to get me to do this. But it's like God's not trying to manipulate you. God's not trying to pull the rug from under you. He's like, aha, I got you. So that's not in God's nature. So let's dig into where that feeling is coming from. Is someone making you feel this way? Maybe someone in your life is trying to manipulate you a little bit. I don't know. But I do know God's not trying to manipulate you. So talk to someone about this. Let all your feelings out. Don't be scared that you're having doubt. Don't feel ashamed that you're having doubt. It's totally normal. Okay. So that's it for me today. Went through some great topics here. Reach out to me with any of your thoughts, comments, questions. I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM, an email, whatever you want to reach out to me. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you all for spending some time with me today. Thanks for letting me be a part of your day. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. Bye.